Alright YouTube, back at it again with the Yeti project. I've already done part of step 16, which is building these links. I already did it using my my jig here. This is just a team associated shock jig, but it's good for doing all your shaft, your turnbuckles to make sure they're evenly spaced. So the next part is going to be assembling this guy, and when you're doing it, you want to make sure that your two bent links are facing towards these two shafts here. That way they go together on the truck properly. And then they just get a countersink screw from the underside. Like so. Make sure we do this one right. Okay. And now you want to make sure that you get them right when you put them in the first time. You don't want to have to turn one of the links half a turn, because then you lose that balance between the two unless you turn both of them half a turn, and then you just lose overall balance between the two end links, which is kind of what you would like to keep balanced. So now these guys go on here, and those metal pole links or pole pieces look like this, but mine are metal because I got the kit and they're upgraded. And the kit, those just get these two countersink screws from the back side with, pardon the reach, a little Loctite on the screw. Alright. Now this is going to be kind of hard to get tight, so you want to make sure you Loctite it, because it is a shaft that is going to free spin inside, or potentially free spin inside of itself, because that's what the ball bearings pivot on. So you don't want to grab it with a tool to make sure you get it tight and risk damaging the shaft. Alrighty. Just run that down nice and tight. And then our final step is attaching our toe link to the outside. Now, when you're doing this, you want to make sure that your ball link, this guy here that I put in upside down, is flat side towards the flat side of the knuckle. And that's so you get a uniform press. And then you're going to add a little plastic washer that looks like this, and the screw's going to go through it, and then the head of the screw sits inside it. And that will keep this together for you. And that just goes like so. And again, just careful not to over tighten it, because you don't want to strip your threads out or strip the plastic out. Okay, like so. Make sure that's down. Now this is the side that is bad, but we're going to assemble it because I just don't want to lose screws or nothing. So we'll just build it knowing that it's bad. It's the wrong angle. It's just not going to work right overall for steerability on the car. Alright, tighten that down. Alrighty. Cool. So it looks like we're done with this step. Gonna put all these parts back in a bag for now. And I'll get the parts out. It looks like we're opening bag C and bag 2. So we'll get this cleaned up real quick and we'll get the other parts out. So give me just a second, guys. We'll be right back. Alright guys, we're back. So we got bag C and bag 2 open. Step 16 starts with us assembling our mid shaft. In order to do our mid shaft, what needs to happen is we got to find our drive shaft, the cup that it goes in, the U-joint part, and the pin that holds it all together, and then this plastic part on tree 3114. It's plastic part number 1, and it actually just slides over all of this to hold this pin in place. So to start, what you do is you take this barrel, slide it inside, take the metal cup, slide it over top of everything, and then take your pin, go through the metal cup, and then slide the plastic barrel over it. And that gives you your universal joint on the front. And then once you've got that assembled, you just take your front drive shaft, alright, make sure your drive shaft holds straight forward. Take, or your drive pin hole is straight up and down, and you're going to find your grub screw right here. Put a little Loctite on it. And that goes through the plastic, through the actual metal cup, and then into the shaft. Okay? And it should end up with something that looks just like this. So your grub screw sits here. Get my driver out, screws into the plastic shaft, and this is your front drive shaft. So we'll set that aside. Alright, so I think I've got everything. What we're doing now is we're building our steering linkage. We're not going to use the jig on this particular setup, so what I do is I count my turns. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then just check your measurement. And they want to see this one at, what do they say, 25. So I'm right at 26. So we'll go one more there. One more there. Make sure we're... And the reason it's so important that you try and keep these things as even as possible is you want to, if you have to adjust it, you don't want to have not enough thread in one hole and when you're adjusting it, have it pop out at you or on you, and then it makes your mounting points a little bit weaker. So put this one here, this one here, like so. We just got a aluminum servo horn, which is going to get a screw through the horn, through the number 2 spacer on parts tree 834, as I smack the camera. So just part number 834, part tree, and you're going to get this little spacer off of it. And then your servo. You make sure you're building it to the back, so it's behind the servo. I don't know how that well that's going to work out in this particular situation. Let's see. Ooh, that's close. We might have to adjust this later, and we'll see. But for right now, let's just do it the way they say. So, once you got that part on, a nylock. Yeah. Come on. There we go. Might have to get a longer servo horn. This is just what I had laying around. So, just put your nylock on there. Tighten that down. And the servo I'm going to be using for this is, it's nothing really fancy. It's the high-tech, high-tech 5645 MG. It literally is just a servo I have sitting around. It's not very fast, and it says digital ultra torque, but it only comes in at 168 ounces at 6 volts. So it's not even, the 400s is what I'd consider ultra torque nowadays. So I think that's an older servo. So we've got that built. We'll flip the page, and we'll do our servo horns, or not our servo horns, but our servo mounts. Right there. So, these guys here, let me rearrange the camera just a little bit. These guys here, one is adjustable, one is not. So, it can adjust to different servos that you're going to be running. And it sits on it like this. And then you're going to get these flathead guys that screw into it. And there's going to be 4 of them. So just be ready to put a couple in. And then make sure that when you're doing this, because I'm about to do it wrong, you're putting the correct orientation for the servo horn, the servo mount. The non-adjust is towards the horn, or is on the horn side, I should say. Alright. screw that down. And they were kind enough to make it so that if your servo has a gusset across the top, that you don't have to chop it off to get it to mount up. Which is pretty cool, because some of the higher end servos, like the super high torque servos, have a gusset that I don't like cutting, but sometimes you just have to make things fit. Okay, so get this one on. Like so. And then our second one, our backside one, is going to go on like this. And it looks like I'm going to have to cut it just a little. It's got a gusset that is hitting the servo. So just like that. And just a little nip. Nothing major. Alright. And then we'll get this put in the car. So, get this screwed down. Alrighty, so the battery died on my phone, or my camera, so I have to redo a couple spots. So what we're going to pick up is mounting the servo. So we've already done our servo horn mount on the servo, and then your servo just drops into this little hole here, and it's screwed down on both sides. So, and then now the backside servo mount is adjustable, and that's so if you run a larger or smaller servo, you can put it in place easier. Like this servo right here is almost one of the smallest ones this particular truck will run, and then it can run bigger. So we're gonna have to center our servo channel. So right now we're just gonna mount the servo up. And that just gets a 15 mil through the plastic, through the little horn, so through our little ball nut, through the horn on the truck, and then it gets a lock nut on top of it. Let's get here. My fat fingers get in there. And I'm just not going to tighten that all the way down just because we're going to have to redo it anyway. So your servo wires can either come up around like this in this channel and go into this box where we could put our receiver potentially, or it can go into this box under here, which is where our receiver is supposed to go. So it just depends on the situation, how much wire you have, how much room is in this little box, what receiver, and whatnot. So for right now, we'll just stick it in that box underneath the truck so it's out of the way. So once that's done, we're going to go ahead and mount our front bulkhead piece. Like so. And then the cover piece for this box over here. So, front servo, or front mount, bulkhead mount, like so. And just make sure that you have got your bearings in the tower here. Make sure both your bearings are in. They'll fall out if you're doing this in steps, a couple days apart, like I'm doing. So, just make sure this is all the way down and flush before you start screwing it in, so you don't run into any bind-up issues where you're taking part of it apart to try and get all the mounts down. There we go. So it'll sit flush like that. In here it'll sit flush. It'll sit flush against your mounts for your steering post. And it'll sit flush down over on this side, like so. Once you've got that in, you're going to be putting in a few of these longer countersunks. So let's see. You get long countersunk there, long countersunk up here, long countersunk on these two inside holes here and here, and then a long one on this outside hole, and then two short ones on our steering posts. Both of these get Loctite before they go in. So there and there. Okay, so let's go ahead and start screwing these guys together. Like so. So, alrighty. Then once you've got these all in and tight, let's finish tightening them up. You're going to put 4 more short ones up in the front bulkhead to make everything rigid up front. So we'll put 4 more short ones, and they just go in these front 4 holes here, right here. Alrighty, so that completes our front end for right now. Alright guys, we're going to call it right there. So, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you guys think. Our next video is going to be building the transmission, transfer case, and whatnot. So, stay tuned guys, like, comment, subscribe. Speedy Mike signing off.